It's been a few years since we've heard something from the Foo Fighters, and in that time since Concrete and Gold, we know Dave Grohl and the band have been severely stalled without their ability to do their favorite thing, play live. After the decision to self-delay a finished album due to the world shutting down, the band now give us Medicine at Midnight, the Foo Fighters' 10th studio album. That point about the Foo Fighters not being able to play live is a big deal also, because once you've seen them, you know that the live show is what the band lives for. I admit I have not loved every Foo Fighters album since Wasting Light back in 2011, but that has not made my fondness for the Foos sway over the years. I've been a fan since I was young, and that's not changing for better or worse. Medicine at Midnight, running 36.5 minutes across 9 tracks, is an album with the intention to help people feel a little better. The full album was completely finished back in February of 2020, but Foo Fighters and the label decided to hold off with the uncertainty. After roughly a year, everyone decided now was the time to release the album with the intention of lifting everyone's spirits. After an appearance on Saturday Night Live at the end of a tumultuous election week in the US a few months ago, Foo Fighters have one of the most anticipated albums from big names in 2021, which is saying something considering how many bands and artists will be releasing new material this year. The lyrics on Medicine at Midnight through most songs are meant to be functional with an emphasis on energy. Let's be honest, Foo Fighters have been making hits since the 90s alternative scene, and some stadium rock at a time where everyone is missing stadiums could scratch an itch we all have. Not to mention, there's really not a bad time to hear from good guy Grohl. I mean, come on, it's Dave. Coming after Concrete and Gold and Sonic Highways, I came into this album wanting redemption and to really love a Foo Fighters album again. Big hooks, grooves, fun riffs, memorable lyrics, all things the band is capable of making. And I admit, after hearing the first single Shame Shame on SNL and it getting blasted on radio, I was concerned. Shame Shame was the lead off, and I cannot stress enough that this was not a good idea for a lead into a new album. It's low energy for Foo Fighters, Dave sounds low on the vocals, it's extremely repetitive, and for 4 minutes, not much happens. This is the filler song on the album if there ever was one, but for some reason it was highlighted to promote the album, which is insane because the rest of the album is solid. My fears were alleviated when I heard No Son of Mine a few weeks later. This is what I wanted with a groove and strong drum track from Taylor Hawkins, who really shines through Medicine at Midnight. Dave sounds more alive, the guitar riffs work great in the verses, and the bridge is where just enough energy is thrown out without going overboard. The energy is infectious while listening. Waiting on a War was the final song to get released before the album dropped, and this is a great example of good build-up in a movement and volume through a song. It'll be killer in live performances when touring can happen again. It's a repetitive chant in the second half, but with so much passion in the performance, in the second half, it's hard not to get sucked into this one. I thought No Son of Mine was great, and Waiting on a War was fun, and that rekindled my anticipation for a new Foo Fighters album in a good way. I may never know why the band wanted to play Shame Shame on SNL and have that be the lead-off, but whatever, so long as we end up with a good album, I can deal with it. The album opens up with Making a Fire, which features guest vocals from Dave's teenage daughter, Violet. This is a great album opener, too. Violet has a good contribution to the song, and Dave sounds like he's putting in some rock and roll swagger with the performance. The guitar and bass are smooth, and it's a good driving song. Cloud Spotter might be my favorite track on Medicine at Midnight. It takes a little bit to kick in, but there's so much to love on this song. The thick guitars and Dave's delivery in the chorus reminds me of why I love this band. This is arena rock that's going to work well when live shows come back, and you can hear that Foo Fighters are having fun on this one. The title track changes the mood a bit from the previous songs on the album. The bass is heavy and the rhythm is a standout here, along with the background vocals. Not a loud track or particularly memorable, but still feels like it belongs here. It reminds me of big rock acts from the 80s with the guitar in the second half. Holding Poison is more standard Foo Fighters style from the 2000s era with a little bit more percussion elements like cowbell in the verses. Like the title track, it's not an extremely memorable song outside of some good instrument work and a nice bridge, but I can't say it's awful by any means. It works. Chasing Birds is the slow ballad that many may not have been expecting. It breezes in at about half the volume of the rest of the album, and it's smooth with some of the acoustics and cymbals. This is soft rock gold if you're into that type of thing, and it's coming to an elevator near you, but it works for that. The album ends with Love Dies Young, and it's a nice little closer with some good guitar tones and riffs from everyone playing. There's a steady energy to this one, and the riff at the end of the chorus is a nice combination. The album goes by quick because of the shorter track list, but most of the songs don't feel rushed, and Love Dies Young does a good job of capturing that sound Foo Fighters used to be known for. This album surprised me in good ways, and I think part of that had to do with the weakest song, Shame Shame, being the first single we all heard. There is much more to enjoy on this album, including other singles and deeper cuts. This probably is the best Foo Fighters album since Wasting Light, and while I may not love it, I am totally fine with this being in the discography, and I want to hear some of these songs live. sooner than later. Overall, Medicine at Midnight was that uplifting rock album that many of us needed in 2021 after so much has happened, and Foo Fighters' decision to hold off until now has paid off. It may not be a gemstone of the band's discography, but it definitely serves its purpose with some great hooks. Foo Fighters fans will be happy, rock fans will be satisfied, and while in a pandemic, we all could use a little medicine like this to lift our spirits. What did you think of Medicine at Midnight? Leave a comment and let everyone know. Big thanks to my patrons and a special thanks to Brandon Barenfeld, Chris Doman, McKenna White, and Dom Noble. You can have a say in upcoming videos and see videos early by supporting Rocked on Patreon. Please click the link in the video description for more information on helping the channel. Please subscribe and ring the bell to get notified on upcoming videos. You can check out my concert photography on Instagram, and you can keep up to date with Rocked on Facebook and Twitter.